What the heck is Formula One?
Pole position, strategy,
yachts and parties,
safety car, Ferrari.
beautiful corners.
Oh, right, okay. There's a car in front of you. Try and overtake it.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Hello, you fools. Welcome to the Formula Fools podcast. I'm David, your host, and with me, as always, is Skin,
Oh, yeah. The co-host, I guess.
the co-host.
Yeah.
We should explain at some point on this pod why your name's Skin, but it's not for today.
Sure.
If you're wanting to learn about F1, then this is the podcast for you. Please use this platform. Please use us as a way to expand your knowledge and expand what you know about the sport. If you are struggling to have conversations with your friends about F1, send us a message. We can help you out with whatever you're trying to learn about. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. Well done, Diz. That's a clean intro. Look at
Mate,
you
I'm
go.
keeping it casual and conversational, Skin.
Amazing. Well done.
So sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. Again, like I said last time, Skin, people would riot if that line had left.
True.
We literally have to keep it in for the people.
Of course.
Okay, we're going to start off with, like we always do on a race recap episode, with a hot lap recap with my good mate Ryan Smith. This is a segment where Ryan is going to recap what happened over the race weekend, to tell you all of the highlights, just to catch you up, re-jog your memory on the events. So yeah, here's a quick video from Ryan.
The race is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go.
All right, fools, your hot lap recap here from Austin, where McLaren's title charge hit a proper speed bump and Max Verstappen decided he fancied getting back in the fight after all. Right, let's cut to the chase, shall we? This weekend was a bit of a shocker for McLaren, wasn't it? The sprint race, a complete disaster. Both cars out after a first lap shunt. Piastri clipped a Sauber, bounced into Norris, and that was that. Game over before it even started. And just to rub that delicious salt in the wounds, Red Bull got fined for trying to peel Lando's grid marker tape off the track. Cheeky, absolutely. Not totally against the rules, but you've got to admire the hustle. Right, then came Sunday. All right, Max Verstappen in a league of his own. Pole, lights to flag, victory. I don't even think he broke a sweat, actually. And this was his 7th US Grand Prix win. He loves this place. You could just see the confidence oozing back into that Red Bull garage. I think they're going to try and go for it, you know. Now, while Max was cruising, Lando Norris was having a right old scrap with Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, wasn't he? Leclerc, on soft tyres, got a mega start and jumped Lando into second. Now, it took Norris most of the race to get past him. He did it once, then lost him on the pits, and then had to do it again. And he managed to get there with a proper hard-fought move into turn 12 with just 5 laps to go. He needed to let his tyres breathe and cool down, and then, thanks to his engineer, got the right strategy to get there. So, where was our championship leader, Oscar Piastri, in all of this? Well, he's had another quiet one, hasn't he? Off the pace all weekend, couldn't get near the front, and had to settle for 5th behind Leclerc and Hamilton. It's the 3rd race in a row where he's looked a bit lost. And you really do have to wonder if the pressure is finally starting to show. And this is where it gets interesting, okay? Over this one weekend alone in Austin, Max Verstappen has gained a whopping 23 points on Piastri. The championship lead, which looked pretty comfortable a few weeks ago, is now down to just 14 points between Piastri and Norris, and only 40 points from there to Verstappen. What was a 2-horse race is now very much a 3-way fight. So, what on earth is going on at McLaren? Hey, that car was dominating just a few weeks ago, and now it looks really vulnerable. You know, Dave mentioned it in the last pod. Everyone else has either caught up or they've gone wrong somewhere. Piastri's form's dipped. Lando is having to fight tooth and nail for every single point, and suddenly Max and Red Bull, well, at least one driver in Red Bull, look like they found their mojo again. You know, they've been chipping away at that lead race by race now, haven't they? And now properly, they are back in the hunt. And to finish off from Austin, the rest of the drivers behind the top 5. We got George Russell recovered to 6th for Mercedes, which is not bad after his exploits in the race before. Yuki Tsunoda, a solid run to 7th for Red Bull, ahead of Nico Hülkenberg Sauber, another great result for him. Ollie Bearman managed to survive a spin to grab 9th for Haas on home soil, and Fernando Alonso took the final point for Aston Martin. Let's be honest, it wasn't going to be Stroll, was it? So, to wrap it up, Max is on a roll. McLaren are looking shaky, and this championship is wide open again. We've got a championship on our hands again, boys. Next up, it's Mexico. High altitude, long straights, and a whole lot of pressure. This is where we find out if McLaren can hold their nerve. That's your Hot Lap recap. I'm Ryan, reminding you that in F1, you can never, ever count out a 4-time world champion with a point to prove. Unless you're me, who's counted him out several times this year already. We'll not mention that. See you next time.
Okay, Skin, let's start off with the sprint, I think. Plenty went on in that race.
Yeah. There were like crashes and stuff. Yeah.
And by plenty, I kind of, as soon as I said plenty, I was like, 2 things happened in that race.
Yeah. Well, what 2 things are you talking about? There's a big crash at the start.
Yeah. And then the Stroll's crash at the end. So let's talk about the Stroll thing first.
Cannonball.
Yeah. Stroll's a wiener. Like, that was fucking ridiculous.
He's so funny. I just love his like post-race interviews where he's just like, oh, it was fun. He's just out there having a great time.
Yeah, he's just
like a kid
life.
on recess.
Literally. Like, the Bella's just gone. He's got an ice cream. He's happy. He doesn't need anything else in the world. People that aren't happy: Oscar, Lando, Hülkenberg, Fernando.
Yes.
That crash at the beginning of the sprint was rogue, to say the least, for the championship.
Yeah, true. Yeah, well, that certainly helped Max in his little fight back, didn't it?
Yeah.
What do you make of the crash? Is anyone at fault there? Look, as the fool of the show, of
course,
Formula fool who knows nothing about F1, that looks to me like it's mostly Hülkenberg's fault. But I feel like Piastri got most of the blame.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of there's 2 sides to the coin. I think the FIA did a great decision with making it a racing incident.
Okay.
I thought at first the same thing, that it was Hülkenberg's fault. It looked like from the live camera that he had like made a crazy last minute dive and just drove in like Stroll did and drove into the side of Oscar. I think when you watch it from his on board, it kind of clears him of that, because everyone was going so slow into turn 1 on lap 1. So a late dive like that is not out of the ordinary. And up until the point that Oscar starts to turn his car, there was a massive wide open space down his inside. So like, he's going to go for that gap. Like, it's the corner being as tight as it is and cambering away from the apex. If he could have gotten to the apex, obviously Fernando was on his inside, so that made it more difficult. But if Fernando wasn't there and he could have fully got to the apex, they probably would have gone through unscathed. But I think he turned in, realized Fernando was there, couldn't fully commit to the apex, and then Oscar has just swooped straight in front of him. I think he wasn't expecting Oscar to do that. Maybe he should have thought Oscar's always going to try a switchback.
Well,
maybe I'll give him a bit more space.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like, 50-50 from his point of view. I think from Oscar's point of view, and the reason why he copped so much flack is that the way that we saw a lot of switchbacks during this race. Like, Lando tried it a heap on Charles. We saw, I think it was Lewis. Lewis had a great battle. I can't remember who that was with. But Lewis had a great battle, and some of his, I was saying at the time whilst I was watching it, I was like, this is classic racing. This is like old school. Like, we used to see Fernando doing this back in the day, Schumacher doing this back in the day, Hakkinen and all the other greats. But like, this is great to watch. I feel like in the past few races, I hate that this is happening, but I'm really starting to appreciate Lewis's racing. Like, he's done really well, and that was some great moves. But I think the way in which Oscar did it in comparison to Lewis's and the other people's was very aggressive, and it was very like a sharp turn to the left. So I think that's why he copped it, was because it looked so aggressive. But again, I think it's kind of 50-50. Like, he had to send it into turn 1. It was pretty much going to be his only opportunity to get past Lando. And I think it was well worth the dive, well worth the commitment that he put into it. Obviously, he ended up crashing, so it sucks. But at the end of the day, it was only a sprint race. So
True. Who cares?
If that was Grand Prix and Max had gained 25 points on them, it'd be a different story. But it was sprint race. He gained, 8 points, 7 points, whatever it is. Like, it's a lot, but it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much everything that happened in the sprint night.
Yeah, pretty much. Then Max won.
Oh, yeah, Max won, yeah. Guru from Max. That dominance in the sprint was fantastic. We'll get on to Max a little bit later, though.
Sure.
Race. Quite a few things happened in the race. I firstly want to touch upon an apology to all of the new F1 fans, because F1 is not putting on a good show for you. We're just, this season has just been a write-off, and all of the racing this weekend, apart from the 2 crashes we've just mentioned, was fucking boring as shit. Like, it was not a good race weekend.
Okay. Like, just in terms of
entertainment. Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Fair.
I think if we didn't have the championship chase we've got, this would be the most boring season. I think if McLaren had kept their pace out at the beginning of the season and we're still dominating everything now, it would be so fucking boring.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like there's a little bit of tension there now that Max is sort of randomly coming back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I want to ask, like, what is up with that? Why is Max, I assume Max is only coming back because McLaren, like, the only reason I can think of for McLaren to be so slow suddenly compared to Max is they must have stopped developing the car for this year.
Yeah.
Why would McLaren stop developing the car when they haven't locked into Drivers' Championship yet?
So, I think everyone pretty much has. They spoke to Lauren Mekis from Red Bull, the team principal at Red Bull, and they said to him, like, have you got any upgrades coming up, blah, blah, and he was like, no, we stopped development for this year's car a long time ago. So, like, I think after the summer break, everyone has stopped development for this car. The thing that happened is over the summer break, Red Bull brought significant changes to the front end of their car, few changes to the underside of the car. I know the skid blocks changed, and I think some changes to the rear wing as well, which has kind of rebalanced their car compared to the issues they were having pre summer break.
Right.
So, like, I don't think that it's McLaren have stopped and everyone is still going. I think it was that Red Bull's upgrade has brought them back on a more level playing field. I think McLaren still has the better car, but I think they're Red Bull are now closer, and Max is just Max, and he's a fucking guru. So I think that's more what it is that it's not that McLaren have stopped and everyone else is still going, because we're not seeing Ferrari and Mercedes really be heads and shoulders above them like Max was this weekend.
Sure.
I think it's a mixture of Red Bull kind of rebalancing their car and Max just being an absolute jet.
Right. But even Mercedes and Ferrari do seem more competitive with McLaren now than they were at the start of the season too.
Yeah. And it'll be the exact same thing. They'll have better upgrades.
Okay.
McLaren are not known for being, last season was kind of the exception to the rule. They developed their car really well throughout the season, but McLaren aren't known for being the best development car. The car they come out with at the beginning usually either stagnates or like slowly increases or it decreases. Red Bull are usually the team that will start off slow and end really high. Ferrari and Mercedes are kind of, changes each year, but yeah, these two have, and I know what you're thinking, like, how can that be? Like, some of the smartest people in the world, but there are weird tendencies like this in F1 that carry on. Like, you can look at the past 5 seasons and it's usually a very similar pattern. Like Williams have always had we've had an overweight issue with our car for 8-9 years now. Like, that's not anything new. It's just something within our development, which James is trying to grow out of. But it takes a lot of time to grow out of these kind of things.
Okay.
Habits and things. Speaking of Williams.
Sure.
Sorry, were you going to say something else on that?
Well, I was just going to say earlier when you were talking about racing this season being quite boring and not having a heap to offer, and this weekend in particular, outside of those 2 crashes.
Yeah.
It did feel like there were like still other moves going on. Like you spoke about Lewis's attacks and Lando's attacks on Charles and things like that. I think you called it a switchback. Yeah. What exactly is a switchback? It looked like there were a few little crashes and incidents. I think even Sainz's crash. Something looked weird about this tracker. Like, to someone who doesn't know much about F1, I don't know how to put it exactly, but it just looked weird. Like, there were just all these. It was like the corners were so wide that people just felt like they could make outrageous dive bombs from like 6 car lengths back that they were never going to stick.
Yep.
And Yeah, and it was just so strange. And like occasionally they'd stick them, but then they'd have to go out so wide that the other person got the corner back.
Yep.
It was just really weird. Like, what is it about the track that makes that happen?
It's just like what you just said. The corners are really wide.
Right.
Like the corners are really wide. We've got some anti-cambers because of it's everything I said last week, right? Like I said last week in the preview to this race, the corners are really wide. We're going to probably see a lot of people going off the track. And I said about like the bumps on the track and the surface of the track not being, like it's still settling in and like it's still fairly new in terms of like tarmac on the road kind of thing. So, it's a mixture of all of these things. I think also Pirelli had gone like slightly softer on the tires this year, so it meant people were a little bit more attacky. But it's just kind of this track was purpose built, and it was purpose built for this reason, so that we could have different types of overtakes, so that we could have different types of corners. Like we've got some long straights, we've got some very fast slalomy corners in the first sector, but then we've also got some deep braking zones with some tight corners. We've got it was purpose built to be a track for racing drivers. And when you look at the post-race cool-down room with Max, Charles, and Lando, they were all talking about, oh, what a track to drive. Like this is a really good track to race. There was a funny moment where Lando was like, yeah, but it's a bit hard. And Charles and Max are like, what? Like they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course, like it's F1.
Yeah, right.
Like it was a funny moment. I don't think he quite meant it like that, but yeah, it was funny. But it's a driver's track is how I would describe this one, and you can send moves down the outside, like what we saw with Oscar trying when they crashed in the sprint. He sent a move down the outside as a dummy, so that Lando would then have to brake later to kind of push him and squeeze him wide. But Oscar was always going to brake earlier so that he could then. I need both hands for this. This is why we need mic stands. So this is Oscar, this is Lando. They would brake into the corner. Oscar would dummy to go around the outside, but he would brake slightly earlier. So Lando would then do this to block him off there. And then Oscar would brake harder on the end of his braking zone and then switch back around and have better traction and cut into the apex to zoom out the corner. So that's what we call a cutback.
Okay.
Fernando is like the master of it. Like that, if you look at any of Fernando racing in the Renault back in 05, 06, like he was just like, that was his move. Like that was his bread and butter.
Right.
And it's something you learn in karting as well.
He was just cutting back.
He was just, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Are you trying to be smart?
No.
Oh, you just had a little smirk. I was like, it's going to tell the joke here.
I just found the idea of Fernando regularly cutting back funny. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, he's a guru.
Yeah.
But if anyone go-karts or has been go-karting, it's probably one of the best moves you can make in go-karting is to sell a dummy around the outside and then cut back on the inside.
Gotcha.
It's iconic. It's a great
dummy,
move.
Baby bunting.
Oh, yeah.
It also looked like, correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like there were corners that almost had like they were so wide, they almost had like two apexes. Is that a thing? Do corners have two apexes?
Yeah. Actually, the person I was watching this with, I was on my way back from MotoGP, and the person I was watching this with asked a very similar question. There's a couple of corners on this track where you've got the actual physical apex that you would expect the drivers to hit, but then there's kind of an imaginary one where the more optimal racing line is, and this is all dependent on how heavy the car is, how the car's balanced and feeling, and your grip at that time. So this can change. Another track, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, is the Brazil Grand Prix. It's another track where there's a couple of corners there where you can either hit the apex and do what you would consider a traditional racing line, or you can kind of stay a bit wider and kind of go out and swoop in a bit later. Zandvoort's another one that we had earlier this season that has similar tendencies. And yeah, it's more just that it's usually on either an anti-cambered corner, so that means where the track is falling away from the apex, because to get to the apex, you're then having to put more lateral load through the steering wheel to get there, so you don't want to destroy your tires as much in a race. So, it's kind of that kind of thing, and that's also where fuel and things come into it. But yeah, there's a few corners on this track that are like that, which also, again, makes it interesting. Because if you then want to send one down the inside, you've kind of got, okay, well, I know that's going to be slightly grippier on the actual apex, but it's going to damage my tires more, but I can be more aggressive there. So it's a fun balancing act. This will be one of the tracks that if we fix the cars for next season, if these rules change in the good way, this will be a fucking phenomenal race next year.
Okay.
Nice. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Thank you, Diz. All right. What did you have about Williams?
Williams. Carlos is a guru. P3 in the sprint.
Yep.
Bit of a less of a guru. Whoa.
P3 in the sprint because everyone in front of him crashed.
In 25 years' time, do you think when people look back at the history book, if you open that history book and turn 25 years into the past, are you going to remember crashes? You're going to remember results. It's all that matters for Williams, baby. Results.
I think people do remember
That's
that sort of
the
stuff.
I've ever been. No, people definitely do remember that stuff. We still talk about Senna Prost crashing in Japan all the fucking time, and that was in like 1989 or some shit. Yeah. But still, Williams are gurus. Less gurus. Carlos, less guru in the actual race where he crashed into Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, that wasn't as good.
The thing that I don't like about what has happened to Carlos with the Kimi Antonelli incident is he's received a 5-place grid drop for the next race.
What?
Yeah, I know. Like post-race, they gave him a 5-place grid drop for the next race.
That's quite the penalty.
That was my reaction as well. I was like, that seems very harsh. He sent a move down the inside. He didn't make it stick. He ended up hitting Kimi Antonelli, retired his own car. I think he paid the ultimate price. He retired his own car.
Yeah.
Okay, Kimi could have finished potentially higher than what he was if Carlos didn't hit him, but ultimately he sent a risky last-minute dive and it didn't pay off. That's racing. Daniel Ricciardo built his entire career on being the last of the late breakers. Like, these moves were Daniel Ricciardo's bread and butter. Like, if he wasn't doing this, Daniel Ricciardo had no career. And now it's just like the FIA is so tight with it that they're almost scaring drivers off from wanting to make these moves. It's just, I just don't like this, like, overly aggressive penalty, these overly aggressive penalties that the FIA are giving out. I think we also need to just go, hey, this is motor racing, and he tried something cool there, and he paid the ultimate price. If he had hit Kimi and then he's still finishing the points and Kimi had damage, fair, give him a 5-10 second penalty, whatever. But that's not what happened. I think we need to look at the situation and go, okay, well, he fucking destroyed his own car and didn't finish the race.
Yeah, that seems crazy. Also, did Stroll get a penalty for his crash in the sprint?
It's a very good point.
Because that was like significantly worse.
Way worse. I don't know. If anyone does know, let us know in the comments on Spotify, YouTube, or drop us a DM on Instagram, because I have no clue.
Yeah.
But he should 100% should have, because it was way worse. McLaren, I think they started real cautious in the race. I think most people in the top 10, apart from Charles, started quite cautious in the race. Lando had a fantastic start, but didn't really attack Max off the start line. I think they had the idea of they've probably got a faster race car over a full distance, so they can get him during the race. Obviously, not having that data from the sprint race, they didn't realize that their front left tire on both cars was going to be fucking horrific the entire race. So, them crashing out in the sprint had repercussions throughout the weekend, throughout the race, because they just couldn't. They didn't know what they didn't know what to expect in a long run situation, which is why I like sprint weekends, because it can throw up these kind of things. So yeah, I think they were cautious. I think it was tiptoeing to get through the first lap, and then kind of found themselves not in no man's land, but in a sticky situation, because Oscar made up positions but he just couldn't catch the Ferraris. I don't know where the fuck his pace has gone this year.
Yeah, okay. Well, that answers that question.
Well, you're gonna ask, where's Oscar's pace gone?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Or we sort of touched already on why McLaren are looking slower now than they were at the start of the season compared to everyone else. But why is Oscar in particular looking slower than Lando? If they stopped developing this year's car, shouldn't both cars look slow?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's exactly it. And also, all of the first part of the season, they were very close. Like, it was the Oscar was slightly tipping it, but usually every weekend they were like right on each other. And all of a sudden, easy skin.
It's some of the worst wording ever, but I do understand what you're saying.
But all of a sudden now we've got Oscar with just zero pace, and just couldn't even catch the Ferraris during this race. It was real weird. And then Lando just struggled to get past Charles. I mean, that was one of the best drives Charles ever done, I reckon. Like, that was some of the greatest defending maneuvers I've ever seen. Just putting his car in the correct place all the time, using his battery so wisely. It was a phenomenal race from Charles. But yeah, I think it's just McLaren could potentially be throwing this drivers' championship away. In the last 5-6 races, Max has caught Oscar's lead in the championship by over 50 points. And it's like 5 races to go, 40 points separates them.
Yeah, it's really looking less crazy every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If this trend continues, then they're screwed.
Well,
Max Verstappen is obviously a guru. We've spoken about this already in this pod. We speak about this every fucking week. I feel like he's proving all of the critics wrong. He's proving that he's definitely one of the best drivers ever in our sport. But something he almost achieved this weekend, which I didn't realize no one had achieved yet, and I think it's phenomenal that he almost got it, was the Grand Slam on a sprint weekend, which is pole, sprint pole, sprint win, sprint fastest lap, qualifying pole, race win, race fastest lap. He didn't get the race fastest lap.
no way.
No, he missed out on the race fastest lap.
Who pipped him?
I can't remember. I don't know who pipped him, but I saw the graphic and it had all of the boxes. They were all green, and then race fastest lap was just red. Oh, so disappointing. One job, Max. Come on. You only won by like 10 seconds or some shit. You could have fucking just gone qualifying lap on the last one.
Genuinely.
But no, it's very impressive seeing what he's doing in the car, even during the sprint race. Towards the end, there was a couple of complaints about balance or tires or whatever, and he came on the radio at the end, and his attitude sounded different at the beginning of the season, where he was aggressive and annoyed. He was like, "We've got things to change on this car before qualifying," which was like 3 hours later, and they came out in qualifying and fucking nailed it. So it sounds like he's in a good headspace and he is working hard. He keeps saying in press, race by race. He's not thinking about the long term. He's not thinking about the championship. It's race by race. And I truly believe that, because I think when you look at his results, he's just working on maximizing every single weekend. And if he can do that for the next 3 weekends, he's got a very good chance. So very impressive. Red Bull had other dramas this weekend with Yuki. He got screwed a little bit in qualifying. I think sprint qualifying, sorry. They didn't send him out at the right time, so he ended up out of position for where they thought he could have been. But in the race, Yuki had a bit of a coming together with Ollie Bearman.
Yes.
And I'm very shocked that Yuki didn't get a penalty for this.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah. Why do you think Yuki should have gotten a penalty for it? Because, again, for someone who knows very little about F1, it looked really quite innocuous, and I was shocked. I was shocked watching Ollie blow up after the race. It was like it looks like Yuki barely moved at all. He's a car length or two in front of Ollie. He's sort of maybe a meter or two from the left edge of the track, angling towards the apex. Like, where the fuck else is he going to go? That's obviously where he's driving towards.
Yeah.
Why would you try and dive down the inside?
So the reason for that, I mean, if you look at Carlos in, I think it was like lap 2 or 3 or something, he did the exact move Ollie was trying to do and dove down the inside there and made it work and stuck it, and it was phenomenal. That corner, we have a similar corner. I think it might be Bahrain. Can't remember. It's one of the Middle Eastern tracks has got a similar corner. So you've kind of got a double apex, right? So you straight line in, and then there's a bit of a kink, and then it drops downhill, and then there's the tight left-hander. The natural racing line, because this corner cambers away, the natural racing line is to almost sit in the middle of the track for that first mini corner kink thing, and then fade away to the right to swoop across to the left. So every lap, Ollie would have been sat behind him watching him do that racing line. So Ollie's thinking, okay, well, when I'm close enough, I'm going to send a dive bomb. The moment he moves that way, I'm going to shoot down his inside and brake late and try and make that apex. So that's what Ollie's thinking was. Where things went wrong was Yuki was in the braking zone, was committing, like you can see in the early, you've really got to slow it down. But when you're at speed, you're one of these drivers, like they can almost see everything in slow motion like this. Like it's unbelievable how much data they can process. The front of his car was turning to that right-hand side of the track to take that natural racing line. And then during the braking zone, he changed the front end geometry, turned his wheel slightly and moved it to the left. Now it's at such high speeds, Ollie, like if you've ever been on the motorway and there's all of a sudden like someone in front of you is braked and you've had to really slam on the brakes and you've had to do that, you'll know that feeling of seeing something so last minute and being like your heart goes quick and all of that. You know that kind of like adrenaline scared feeling. Ollie would have seen this all in just like split seconds, and he's jolted to avoid what he then thinks is going to be a crash because of Yuki's erratic under-braking movement, which has then caused him to spin. That slight movement is 100% illegal in our sport. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to move under braking for this exact reason, because it's enough to throw off the reaction of a driver, or enough to throw off the momentum that a driver is anticipating he's going to carry into that corner. And so like moving under braking is a legitimate, like, it's against the rules. You're not allowed to move under braking. In a defensive maneuver, you're only allowed to move once. So if you're going to defend on the inside, you have to commit to the inside, and you're not allowed to then move to the outside until the very like end of the braking zone. So like what Yuki did was he was committed to the natural racing line, moved under braking to the left, and then moved back, which caused the spin. I'm so shocked the FIA haven't looked into it. I think it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. It's a high-speed corner. It's a very, very... Well, it's not a high-speed corner. It's high speed up until the braking zone, and it's a very deep, hard braking zone. So, like, there's a lot of lateral forces, and if they had crashed, that would have been a big fucking crash. Like, Ollie would have gone over the top of Yuki's car for sure.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All
Sorry,
right.
that was very intense.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. Thank you. Very thorough.
But yeah, so I think it needed looking at. I fully agree with Ollie with his blow up. I don't think it was right. I don't think Yuki did it in any malicious way. I just think he just made a mistake. But he should be getting a penalty for that. That's worse than what Carlos did.
Sure.
Way worse. Driver of the day, biggest letdown. I feel like because it was a boring race, just like Singapore, this is a very fucking easy one to look at for me.
Okay.
But I want to hear
got?
your thoughts on it, Skin, because I've not actually read the doco yet, so I don't know what you've put in.
Oh,
For your guru or
no. Yeah, you go first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go Skin. Guru, I've gone for Max. I think he just had like he almost got a Grand Slam on a sprint weekend. No one's ever done it.
Yeah.
He dominated. We didn't expect this to happen. He keeps doing it. He's a fucking weapon. So yeah, it's very hard to not pick Max for this one. I also just don't think anyone else apart from Charles really did anything. Charles had good defensive moves, but still lost the position. So,
yeah,
And
your fool?
Fool, I went with Oscar. I just think his whole weekend, like the crash, his qualifying in sprint, the sprint crash, his qualifying in the race, the actual race performance just wasn't where it needed to be. I was chatting with someone at the MotoGP at the weekend, and we were just like, Oscar's P6, P7, wherever he's starting. He'll be fine. He'll get to the podium. As long as he finishes on the podium, he'll be fine. Didn't even get to the podium. So I was like, oh, fuck, okay. We were just genuinely just like, yeah, he'll get to the podium.
Yeah.
Didn't even get to the podium.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I find your two pretty hard to argue with, really. It feels like when they're boring race weekends and not a heap changes, it's like it's hard to look past the guy that wins the race as the guru. But I guess in an attempt to keep things a little bit spicier, I'd say Ferrari as just the general guru of the week. It was cool seeing them have a little bit of pace for once. I'm so used to watching like Lewis crash or suck at something P11. And then be really sad all weekend. So it was nice seeing them like
actually finish well, yeah. I think they built up quite well as well. They weren't great in free practice. Sprint qualifying, meh. But then in the sprint race, in the main qualifying, like I feel like it was a build-in weekend for them. So yeah, I do agree with that, Skin. That's a good point.
And then a fool, surely just someone that did one of those outrageous switchbacks from 19 car lengths away and crashed. Like
Stroll.
Stroll signs even. I would have said Ollie before your massive lecture, just maybe Yuki, I guess.
Go Skin. Next race, we have Mexico. It's coming up this weekend. I thought we had a weekend off. Turns out we don't. Mexico's a good track. There's a few things I want you to look out for. The first thing is the current championship battle. If Lando or Oscar have a DNF this weekend, it is going to be strife for them. We do not want to see that. If they have a double DNF, that'll be even worse. But in terms of the championship, in terms of championship, it would be fucking great because it brings Max definitely back into the mix. But they need to really step on eggshells. So I think we're going to see even more caution from them this weekend. Probably from Oscar's side of the camp more so. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Just generally, there are just like this track. There are quite a few corners where you can easily crash. I would imagine if someone's making a move on either Oscar or Lando, they're not going to defend it that hard because they don't want to crash. So that will be something to watch out for. It'll be boring, but something to watch out for.
That is crazy. If they just keep being that cautious because they're scared of a DNF, they're going to lose
the championship. Yeah, 100%. They need to be aggressive, but yeah.
Anyway.
The circuit altitude is also a lot higher above sea level than what most tracks are, and so because of that, we have thinner air, which means the reduced aerodynamic downforce. The engine power is less. We have different cooling behaviors and tire behaviors on the cars, so it just means that the cars are under more pressure. The drivers are under a slightly more pressure because of all of this, and performance might be a little bit more leveled across the field. So we might see some shock qualifying departures. We might see some shock people getting into Q3, like a double Williams or a double Haas. Like they kind of do that every so often this season, don't they? So keep an eye out for that. Mexico tyre compounds from Pirelli are also going to be a stage softer than what we had last year. And obviously with the higher altitude, the rough track surface, the high temperatures that we get in Mexico, and it just being an overall demanding track on tyres, I would love to see a 2-stop race, and I would hope that we see quite high tyre degradation. I feel like I say this often, but Mexico is usually one that excites.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's turn 3 or turn 4. There's usually always a crash there, or some drama with overtaking. It's a tight, like, left-hander, bit of a thing, and then a right hand. It's kind of a chicane, but it's a bit of a weird one. But it's a good track. It's a really good track.
All right.
Well, that wraps up another lap at Formula Fools. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did, and it's now your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. On Facebook, we are at Formula Fools. On Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, we are at Formula_Fools.
Oh, yeah. You can also leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening, Apple, Spotify, things like that. That would help us just sneak up a couple of charts, maybe, things of that nature, get a few more people listening.
Yeah. I did hear this week that Joe is he's getting concerned with how quickly we're going up the rankings.
Yeah, I know. We're just chasing him down every week. It's like we're Max and he's Oscar or something. I don't know.
Good.
Thanks.
Yeah. Joe is Joe Rogan,
good.
By the way. That's if you didn't get it, was a joke.
Little podcasting joke.
Yeah.
Well done, Disc. Anyway, that would help. Thanks.
It would. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time.